As Jesus just arrives in Gethsemane. Well, then Jesus brought them to an olive grove called Gethsemane, and he said, "Sit here while I go on ahead to pray." And he took Peter and Zebedee's two sons, James and John, and he began to be filled with anguish and deep distress. He told them, "My soul is crushed with grief to the point of death. Stay here and watch with me." He went on a little further and fell face down on the ground, praying, "My Father, if it's possible, let this cup of suffering be taken away from me. Yet I want your will, not mine." Then he returned to the disciples and found them asleep. He said to Peter, "Couldn't you stay awake and watch with me even 1 hour? Keep alert and pray. Otherwise, temptation will overpower you. For though the spirit is willing enough, the body is weak." Again, he left them and prayed, "My Father, if this cup cannot be taken away until I drink it, your will be done." He returned to them again and found them sleeping, for they just couldn't keep their eyes open. So he went back to pray a third time, saying the same things again. Then he came to the disciples and said, "Still sleeping? Still resting? Look, the time has come. I, the Son of Man, am betrayed into the hands of sinners. Up, let's be going. See, my betrayer is here." So, there we go. Well, that's a shame, isn't it? Again, it did. I know, thank you. You're right, it did. Here we are yet again. What does it say? Wi-Fi not connected. No Wi-Fi. That's what you need. Piece of paper. There you go. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so Easter, 1 week away. 1 week away. Amazing. Spring is with us. Generally speaking, this is a hopeful, positive time of the year when, the blossoms on the trees and all of that. Well, it would be a positive time of year if we weren't mired in Brexit and all of that stuff. Sorry, I'll get that word over with early on in the talk. In fact, right now, actually, it's difficult all around the world. There have been earthquakes, floods, uprisings, civil war. The world is in a state of turmoil. And perhaps one of the things that teaches us is to value good news rather more when it comes along. You know, when there's so much bad stuff around, let's value the good news when it comes along. So, as Easter approaches, this is a right opportunity. This is a great opportunity for us to be thankful for all that we've got and remember those who are really struggling around the world. I'm off out to Malawi in just over a week, and really that's not just a country, but a whole region that's been devastated in recent weeks and months. And so I'll hopefully bring back some more up-to-date news from there when I get back. But what is it that makes Easter so relevant? Do you remember a few years ago the disaster in Fukushima, Japan? Shocking. The thing that's really shocking is it's kind of hard to remember that disaster, isn't it? There have been so many since. This was when there was an earthquake and the nuclear power plant in Fukushima went critical. As bad as the devastation was of that incredible earthquake, and then the enormity of the tsunami that tore across the land, taking everything with it, by far the more concerning aspect of all of that was the damage done to the nuclear power plant in Fukushima. There were 180 volunteers who were working in 3 shifts of 60 to bring the nuclear reactors under control. Now, those 180 people were being exposed to deadly levels of radiation and had to be hospitalized as a result of radiation sickness. All of them faced a death sentence. All of them had received fatal doses of radiation whilst trying to bring the plant under control. They knowingly sacrificed their lives to try to bring the situation under control, and so save the lives of many others. And in many ways, that's like a modern-day parable or picture of what Easter is all about. Specifically, what those 180 volunteers chose to do, which was sacrifice their lives for the sake of others, is what Jesus chose to do, which was the motivation for his journey to the cross. That journey was in many ways the least attractive option for him. He just knew it wasn't going to end well for him. There's no happy ending in this. And yet he chose it anyway. The Bible records that as the time drew near for his return to heaven, Jesus resolutely set out for Jerusalem. And along the way, as the enormity of what he was doing hit him again and again, he made some choices. Now, I mention that because actually these are universal choices that each of us face, the outcome of which will determine the course of our lives and, in fact, the lives of others. These choices are what I would call crossroad choices or crossroad decisions. These decisions aren't arrived at calmly, coolly, and logically, just weighing up a few pros and cons, but as a result of great wrestling and great soul searching. The stakes at these points, the stakes are really high. The enormity and stress of it, if you have ever been at one of these points, the stress of the decisions that you've got to make are likely to have kept you awake at night and robbed you of your appetite and made you feel kind of like queasy in your stomach. And you kind of find yourself playing the different scenarios over and over in your mind, trying to make it different, but it's not. Now, for Jesus, the situation was that although he knew it was his destiny to go to Jerusalem, which would set in motion all the events that would lead up to his death, and so he had resolutely set out for Jerusalem, he was still human, and he had a very real sense of anxiety churning away in him. So just outside Jerusalem, all of the anxiety boils up into this crossroads statement. My Father, if it is possible, may this cup be taken from me, yet not as I will, but as you will. Now, what was making this crossroads decision really difficult was that although he knew what the right thing to do was, he still had free will. He could turn tail and run. This is not a heretical thing for me to say, that Jesus could turn tail and run. He could. He was fully God and fully man. So he had free will. And I'm not saying that Jesus is a coward, just that he had a genuine choice. His Father wasn't forcing him to give himself up and be arrested. As Jesus himself said, no one can take my life from me. I lay down my life voluntarily. See, the difficult thing about a crossroads decision is that we have to make the choice. The choice isn't made for us. You know, we would kind of wish that whatever it is, that suddenly, somehow, miraculously, all the other avenues get shut off and we've just got this one thing and, oh, well, we tried, what can we do? And we go for it anyway. But no, crossroads are crossroads. There are multiple options. We've got to make the choice ourselves. A true crossroads decision is not made for us. The choice is ours. It's up to us. And that's what makes it so difficult. A crossroads decision, then, is a decision of the will. And it's potentially going to define your future and the future of others around you. Such a decision has cost attached to whichever path is chosen. But then the cost of making no choice is higher. Maybe it'll all go away. When was the last time that it all went away and suddenly it got better all on its own? When was the last time you didn't mow the lawn in your back garden and you woke up one morning and found that the grass had receded? Never. Never. Now, for Jesus, the crossroads decision as he really struggled with what to do that night just outside Jerusalem was this. Should he continue on the path towards the cross or choose a path that had less pain and personal cost attached? And if you've ever had a crossroads decision to make, you'll know that they don't necessarily come easily or even quickly. But on the other hand, what's really important about a crossroads decision is not how long it took to arrive at or how much you agonized over it. The important thing is, did you make the right decision? And how do you know before it's too late? Well, here's the process that Jesus went through to make sure he made the right choice at the crossroads. I think it's a great process, and if I'm honest, this is the path that I try to follow as well. The process isn't difficult to understand. What's difficult is putting it into practice. That's where the challenge lies. Well, anyway, the process starts with the realization that crossroads decisions need to be immersed in prayer. Now, that may sound like a bit of a no-brainer. Yeah, of course. You know, coming from the senior pastor of a network of churches, I've got a vested interest in people praying, so would I not say that? But the key word here is not so much prayer as immersed. What I mean by that is that we tend to spend far more time analysing crossroads decisions, thinking through the what-ifs, trying to envisage the worst case and the best case scenarios, worrying, feeling anxious, etc., than we do praying. And what we keep on saying is, we've really got to pray about this. We've really got to pray about this. Yeah, we're going to pray about it. We've really got to pray about it. Pray! See, what if we chose to turn that on its head? Rather than informing God of the situation, spoiler alert, he knows all about it anyway. Rather than telling him about all the problems attached and all the impossibilities of everything, what if we immersed ourselves in prayer? Took time out not to analyze the problem or the situation, but set aside time just to connect with God and make sure we're in a right and close relationship with him. So this connection with God is not so much so that I can counsel God. because he obviously needs to be brought up to speed with why this is such a difficult situation. Not so much that I can sort of sound out the various scenarios with him. It's to make sure that I am in a right relationship with him at this particular moment in time. See, this is what Jesus did. Then Jesus brought them to an olive grove called Gethsemane, and he said, "Sit here while I go on ahead to pray." I'm at a real crossroads here. What should I do? I'm going to focus on prayer. It's not a distraction from the crossroads at hand and the decisions that have to be made. It's a vital aspect of being able to make the right decision to choose to do the right thing. What does that being immersed in prayer look like? Well, it looks like this. Don't worry about anything. Instead, pray about everything. Tell God what you need. Thank him for all that he's done. So immersion in prayer is about immersion in prayer is about reorientating your attention away from being overwhelmed by the decision. What am I going to do? 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 Towards the one who can lead you in the right direction and give you the strength that you need to walk that path. Lord, I'm just focusing on you. I'm just wanting my relationship with you to be right. In the midst of this storm, I'm keeping my eyes fixed on you. Crossroads decisions. No, I'm here to help you right now. I'm giving you the words of life. Crossroads decisions, don't listen to her, listen to me, needs to be immersed in prayer. Now, there's a second aspect to making sure that we make the right choices at the crossroads, which is this. Crossroads decisions need to be taken alone, but to make them, you need the support of others. Now, to be honest, this is not an easy balance to achieve. On the one hand, it's really good to get the perspective of others. But on the other hand, the more perspectives you gather, the harder it can be to make a decision. Oh my goodness, I better have like 2 out of 3 or 5 out of 8. Or hang on a minute, I better go and visit another church and ask them because they may have a totally different perspective. And you get into this analysis paralysis. Perspectives often vary a great deal. You can end up trying to find a way forward based on the middle position of everyone's advice. A bit like the B word, really. Brexit. Sorry. The key thing about a crossroads decision is that it's yours to take. The art of knowing who to listen to and how is the key thing. Look at what Jesus did. He took Peter and Zebedee's 2 sons, James and John, and he began to be filled with anguish and deep distress. He told them this, "My soul is crushed with grief to the point of death. Stay here and watch with me." So notice the boundaries he sets. He begins to be filled with anguish and deep distress when he's alone with his 3 closest friends. He's exercised discernment about who to open his heart to. He's been selective about this. He's not playing favourites and starting up a clique. He's just being sensible about who he allows most into his heart. Who he knows can handle seeing his raw emotion the best. Who he knows won't freak out or gossip or start offering bad advice. Crossroads decisions need the support of others. By the by, not at all, the support of those who will just tell you what you want to hear. So I've gathered lots of people around me, and they all think the same thing. They all think the church is rubbish. So no, what you've done is you've been a lightning rod and you've gathered all the doom mongers around you. You need to gather the right people, the people who'll tell you the truth and can be relied on, and won't, start freaking out. So crossroads decisions need the support of others. But you need to be discerning about who you're going to let into that decision-making process. Now, why Peter, James, and John? Because they have a track record. They've been up the mountain with Jesus. They've had this vision from God, which involved Moses and Elijah. Jesus had seen how they'd handled that. Okay, Peter had, wanted to, all right, but you've learnt from this. You didn't freak out and run away. This is great. They've been developing this track record. Which begs the question, who would you put in that category? Who has developed a track record with you? For that matter, who have you developed a track record with? What might that track record look like? Well, Jesus says to them, stay here and watch with me. Notice what he doesn't say. He doesn't say, now we're alone, guys, what do you think I should do? I mean, be honest. Come on. You're the brains trust here. What do you think I should do? See, a big part of this track record is the ability to support without imposing your unsolicited advice on the person needing the support. Another aspect of this is this. So I say, I'm really struggling. I wonder if you could pray with me. Struggling? Oh, tell me about it. I'll tell you, the week I've had. No, I'm not asking you what kind of a week you've had. I'm saying I'm struggling. Will you support me in this? Don't offer unsolicited advice. Don't make it all about you. Be there to watch and pray. And Jesus has identified the people who've got a track record of watching and praying, being able to do that. So he's not asking them to brainstorm solutions. He's asking them to watch and pray. Your supporters need to be people who are growing in a track record of listening to what you're actually asking rather than wading in with their own solutions. If I was you, yes, but you're not. It's my crossroads, not your crossroads. Now, if you're being asked for an opinion, then by all means, knock yourself out. Give it. But the track record involves offering the level of support that's being requested, not trying to solve the other person's crossroads dilemma for them. And the greatest support that can be given is precisely what Jesus asks for. Stay and watch with me. Watch for what? Well, watch out for what God might be leading you to pray on my behalf. Watch out for what God might be saying about my situation so that you can offer it to me when I ask for it. Watch out for anything I'm overlooking, anything I'm not seeing straight. You need people around or like that around you at times when you need to make a crossroads decision. Not people who need a load of explanation and who need to have their opinions validated. So you end up focusing more on their fragile egos than on the decision that you need to make. What you need is people who are able to do what you most need, to stay with you and watch with you. May I suggest, it would not be a bad idea for you to know who you can rely on before you arrive at the crossroads and need to make an important decision. Jesus knew exactly who he was going to take with him, and he knew exactly what it was he was going to ask them to do. In other words, he had been preparing for his crossroads moments, and so when they came, he was ready. Now, have you been, and will you be? Have you been preparing, and will you be ready? If you get the right people around you, then you have the right strength to draw on to make the right choice in that crossroads decision. With the right people, then it's true that although a person standing alone can be attacked and defeated, two can stand back to back and conquer. Three are even better, for a triple braided cord is not easily broken. If it's the right two or the right three. But then there's a third aspect to this decision-making process that Jesus drew on, which is this. Crossroads decisions need to be taken in the light of having answered the fundamental question, who or what am I living my life for? How do you know if the sense that you're getting from having immersed yourself in prayer and the sense you're getting from those trusted people you've gathered around you is right? How do you know? You might be hearing just what you want to hear and filtering out the rest. Or you might be just going through the motions, having already decided what you're going to do. What makes this real for Jesus was 7 little words that summed up what was really in his heart. Yet, I want your will, not mine. Yet, I want your will, not mine. The fundamental question you and I need to ask ourselves when we're at that crossroads is, who or what am I living my life for? When it comes right down to it, what is my most basic motivation? Now, Howard Hendricks, a noted Bible teacher, once said, a belief is something you will argue about. A conviction is something you will die for. And the fact is, our convictions determine our conduct. They motivate us to act in certain ways. And at the crossroads, where we need to make the tough decisions, that's where our convictions are really laid bare. Yet, I want your will, not mine. When the chips are down and a decision needs to be made, it will fall in line with your basic convictions. Who or what are you truly living for? So can you answer that question clearly and truthfully right now? Because it's fundamental to making crossroads decisions that lead to life and blessing. Jesus had already made that decision, so that even though he was still faced with anxiety and anguish and deep distress, the outcome of that was that he made the right decision. The decision that would ultimately affect the lives of billions of people over thousands of years. In fact, no one vision has had such far-reaching consequences since the original decision of Adam and Eve, when they showed that their crossroads decision was based on a desire to please themselves. Well, Jesus chose to live out his own teaching. He'd already taught people that when they prayed, they should pray, may your kingdom come soon. May your will be done here on earth, just as it is in heaven. And he's now taken that your will be done thing and applied it to his crossroads decision and come up with the right answer. Now, he could do that because that was a core conviction in his life, a desire for God's will to be done. And that highlighted the last aspect of the crossroads decision-making process that really is crucial to realize and live with. And it's this, that crossroads decisions rarely lead to a quieter or easier life. We make the decision based on our moral compass, not our comfort meter. Yet I want your will, not mine, is what Jesus said. But I have no doubt in my mind that Jesus was under no illusion whatsoever that his Father's will was going to lead to an easier, less confrontational life. He had no illusions about that. People who make the right decision at the crossroads, who choose to do the right thing rather than the most convenient thing, are those who are engaging their moral compass, not their comfort meter. Now, Jesus had immersed himself in prayer. He surrounded himself with trusted friends and counselors who have developed a track record with him. He's reaffirmed that he truly wants to do his Father's will. And now he sees a crowd approaching their position in the Garden of Gethsemane. He knows, well, it's pretty obvious really, that this is a lynch mob come looking for him. It's not a welcoming committee, it's a lynch mob. I think it was the torches and pitchforks that gave it away. He knows that the moment to make the decision has arrived. Do the safe and comfortable thing or do the right thing. This is it. The moment of decision. Now, no doubt you know what that moment feels like. I certainly do. You get that clammy feeling in your hands. Your stomach's churning, that the heart's pounding, and you know you've got to make the decision now. No more questioning, no more asking God in prayer, no more gaining strength from your friends. It's decision time. Look, the time has come. I, the Son of Man, am betrayed into the hands of sinners. Up, let's be going. See, my betrayer is here. Let's be going. Where? The only place that his moral compass would allow him to go towards doing the thing his Father had put him on earth to do. Being arrested and tried and convicted and crucified. Because he'd reconfirmed or reaffirmed and clarified who he was living his life for, his moral compass was pointing in the clear, right direction, and he was able to make the decision that he needed to make. And that's the way we make the crossroads decision to do the right thing. We make sure our moral compass is correctly aligned by affirming that we are living for what God wants us to do. We recognize the power that our comfort meter has to swing our moral compass out of alignment, and we choose, nevertheless, to walk the path that God is revealing and reaffirming to us. And so Jesus went towards the cross. His crossroads decision was made. He'd made the right choice, and he would now fully embrace his Father's plans for his life. So how about you at your next crossroads? Or maybe the one that you're at right now. What action are you going to take to make sure that you do the right thing? Not the easy thing or the expedient thing, but the right thing. The thing that Jesus would do in your position right now. If this is your Garden of Gethsemane moment, what are you going to do? Well, let's pray, shall we? Lord, those amazing and life-changing words, 7 words. Yet not my will, but yours. I want not my will, but yours. Easy to say, hard to mean, harder to live by, and yet, Lord, at the very crux of the crossroads decision, I want your will, not my will. And for each one of us, as we face or will face, I am absolutely sure, a crossroads decision. Prepare us, Lord. Prepare us by helping us to immerse ourselves in prayer that draws us not to becoming great problem solvers, but draws us to you. Open our eyes, Lord, to those that we can rely on to be good listeners and good prayers. May we know for sure what we are living for. Yet I want your will, not mine. And realign, Lord, even now, right now, realign our moral compass away from just conveniently pointing in the direction that our comfort meter is pointing in, but towards you and your will. I thank you so much that Jesus lived this process. And because he lived that process and he died on the cross, I live. I have a hope. I have a future. And we all do. How amazing, Lord. How wonderful. May I approach my crossroads as you dealt with yours.